Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is the Firework Paladin, in which we'll be proccing all sorts of things. Now for starters, this is pretty much a meme build. This is not going to be a super high damaging build. The survivability is alright. You can go to 100 to 200 waves in the arena with it. Your bosses are going to be Z DPS and take forever. This thing really excels when there's a lot of mob density, and on top of that, when there is mob density and all of these things are proccing, your FPS is going to shoot down to about 0. Now with all of that said, it is really cool when everything procs and your entire screen lights up in a barrage of colors. You're going to have divine bolts shooting outwards, you're going to have smites raining down from the heavens, you're going to have cascading orbs exploding, you're going to have abyssal orbs shooting out and then exploding. You're going to have axes that are flying out as you do melee hits. You're going to have your sigils as you proc them with kills, get the divine flare, which is a really big explosion. You're going to have Holy Aura's flame burst going off, and then when you run out of mana, you'll be in Rebuke, and then Rebuke is a spell which will also be proccing a nice spell in an AoE area. So all of these things together is just a bunch of effects on the screen, and like I said in the title, it's basically just a fireworks show of colors, but it doesn't really do much. But let's go ahead and get into the skills, the interactions, and just how it all works. For skills, I'm running Sigils of Hope, Rebuke, Lunge, Holy Aura, and Warpath. For Sigils of Hope, we have this set up so it will proc on kill, and then if you really want to, we have it on instacast so you can cast it while you're warpathing, but it will eat through your mana really quick. It's also going to have a 1 cap max, and then when you proc another one, it then explodes doing Divine Flare, which will do a bunch of damage and a big AoE around you. We got 4 points in Empowering Sigils, 1 point in Last Wish, 2 points in Word of Alacrity, and then 1 point to turn it into an instacast. 2 points in Iron Sigils, 4 points in Enduring Hope, 1 point in Soliloquy, 1 point in Divine Flare, 1 point in Energized Flare, and 3 points in Consecrating Flare. Now, Energized Flare is where you can get a lot of damage. If one procs and then it's activated for a full 20 seconds or almost to the maximum duration before you proc another one, it gets a huge amount of base fire damage, which will increase the damage that it does. For Rebuke, we have Rebuke set up to give us mana, and so that while we're getting the mana, for every hit we take, we get even more mana, and we'll do more damage with it when it explodes at the end of its duration. We have 2 points in Bide, 1 point in Infinite Guardian, and 2 points in Inner Focus. This is what gives you 2 mana every time that you get hit, so if you're running really low on mana, try to get into like a pack of enemies, and then just start channeling Rebuke, and you'll get all of your mana back. 6 points in Retaliation, 3 points in Dark Thoughts, 1 point in Void Fused Barrier, 4 points in Battle Meditation, so you have 100% more mana regen while you are channeling Rebuke, and 1 point in Redemption. For Lunge, we use Lunge in between Warpath so that we can lunge towards an enemy to kind of move from pack to pack quicker, and so that we can get a bunch of critical strike chance. We won't always be using it, but you can. 4 points in Into the Fray, 1 point in Double Strike, 3 points in Tactician, 1 point in Deadly Aim, 4 points in Forge On, 1 point Unstoppable, 1 point in Initiative, and 5 points in Adventurous Charge. If you don't find yourself ever using Lunge, feel free to swap it out and you could spec into, say, Swipe or Smite, and be able to get some more damage out of Smite or attack speed. And then for Holy Aura, we got 3 points in Shelter from the Storm, 2 points in Reha's Devotion, 5 points in Burning Blows, 1 point in Flame Burst, 4 points in Improved Flame Burst, 4 points in Fanaticism, and 1 point in True Strike. And then for Warpath itself, we have it set up to proc all our cascading orbs, abyssal orbs, and to get more damage against time-rotted enemies. So we got 3 points in Void Spiral, 5 points in Temporal Cascade, so that for every hit we do, there's a 40% chance for a cascading orb, which is a spell. It'll travel in an arc, it comes down, and then it does a Void Rift, hitting all the enemies in a small area of effect. 4 points in Apocalypse Whirl, so there's a time for Time Rot chance on hit, 1 point in From the Abyss, so now that every second while you spin, you'll cast an Abyssal Orb, 2 points in Abyssal Flurry to make that 80% more frequent, and then 5 points in Abyssal Tempest, so that you have 150% more hit damage versus time rotted enemies, and this will help get you some actual damage into the build. Even though we have a lot of spell damage, none of these skills really do enough damage and aren't procced enough against single target for them to be super effective. For passives, I have 41 points in the Sentinel base class, with 8 points in Juggernaut, 1 point in Overwhelm, 5 points in Counterattack, 5 points in Armor Clad, 1 point in Fearless, 5 points in Axe Thrower, 10 points in Mail Crusher, 1 point in Gladiator, and 5 points in Blade Master. And you might be asking when we get to the items why I'm not just wearing a two-handed staff for more adaptive spell damage. And you can definitely do that, but you will lose a huge amount of attack speed because we're going Scepter and Sword and we get the 60% attack speed. So it's kind of a trade-off. Of course, you'll take the 12% less damage if you decide to go with the two-hander instead of dual wielding. So it's up to you for that little bit more survivability but less damage output. 0 points in the Void Knight, 0 points in Forge Guard, and 70 points in the Mastered Paladin, with 8 points in Conviction, 8 points in Defiance, 1 point in Divine Bolt, 2 points in Shared Divinity, 7 points in Holy Symbol, 10 points in Majasa Firebrand, 8 points in Reha's Strength, 8 points in Faith and Armor, 4 points in Righteous Firebrand, 12 points in Reverence of Duality, and 2 points in Sword of Reha. As you can tell, we have quite an amount of Ignite chance going on. This is, and also because we have a lot of Void spells and we're wearing a Scepter that gives us a bunch of Ignite chance on Void spell hits, we built into Ignite pretty strongly. For items and idols, so for idols, the idols you want is a % chance to cast Smite when hit with throwing attacks, or when you hit with throwing attacks. And what that's going to do is while you're warpathing and getting melee hits, you'll throw an axe out, and that axe counts as a throwing attack, and that can proc Smite for you. The reason that you want to proc Smites is not all for the colors, it's because proccing that Smite will also give you mana back, which will prolong the amount of time that you can spend inside of Warpath. We do have some uniques. The uniques we have is Gasper's Will, so that for each one of those Void spell hits coming out, we have a 200% plus chance to Ignite. We also get some added spell Void damage with this, along with a bunch of adaptive spell damage. We have the Wings of Argentus, so we take 40% less damage while we're warpathing. And then we have a Sword on the Blade of the Forgotten Knight, which comes with a lot of melee physical damage for the Warpath damage, and it also comes with the Void spell damage, which increases the amount of damage all of our spell voids are going to do. And actually that damage is added to all spells, but it's just really effective for our Void ones because they're also scaling with the Void damage increases. And then for the helm, like I said, make sure that you get some plus mana gained on Smite use, so that you can get mana back whenever Smite is procced while you're in Warpath to help refill that mana, as we did not make Warpath a zero costing skill, we went for the full Firework show. I'm just going to hover over the rest of these. As always, you can go down into the description, click on the written guide, and in there will be a link for the build planner so that you can mess around with them, see them, and do whatever you need with them. For the character sheet, we have almost capped resistances. We're just a little low on poison and necrotic, although we do get some while channeling, and I only have a T1 rule of the resistances while channeling, so if you can get a little higher, you'll be able to cap those out. And then we have 35% armor. When you lunge, you'll get some more than that. Not much, but you'll definitely get some more. Channeling's not going to do anything. There are some blessings out there to give you a bunch of flat armor while channeling, so if you get that, that'll really boost your defense just a little bit more. And then for damages, we got almost 400% void damage, and that's going to affect all of our void spells, as well as Warpath damage, which is also scaling with the void tag, since we put into that void node to give it that 1 or 2, I think we actually went with 3 points of 3 base void damage. And then how to play the build. So I like to just put Lunge on autocast. That's the only thing that I'll put on autocast. And just to show you the armor, after we lunge, you can see we jumped up to 43% armor. Not a huge jump, but you know, it's enough to give you just a little extra defense. And then all you do is you just warpath around, and you'll see that whenever we get a smite to proc here, which is kind of hard on a single target, which is where your mana will fall the most. If you do get a smite to come down, it'll refill your mana just a little, but we gotta be lucky enough to get the axe to hit the training dummy, and then the training dummy has to proc the smite. But when you start to run out like we are now, you can just use Rebuke, and you'll get some mana back. It'll do its explosion, you can go back into it, and you can keep going back and forth. The nice thing about Rebuke is even though you're only standing in one spot and channeling, you are getting 75% additional damage reduction, so you'll be able to survive many hits that you take in it. Plus every hit that you take is going to give you more mana, so you'll refill even faster. Alright, that's going to be it for the fireworks show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like I said, it's not a powerhouse build, it's more of a meme than anything. However, I was asked to do a special build, and this is the one that we just kind of threw together really fast. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys some gameplay, and as always, stay safe, travelers.